What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Sunday morning so far. This is NYGJeffyT85 here, and I'm going to talk about John Michael Schmitz, the New York Giants second-round pick they selected out of the University of Minnesota back at pick number 57 in last week's NFL draft. And why I believe John Michael Schmitz could be the guy, the central figure on the New York Giants offensive line that will transform this team into an upper echelon offensive line. And to be honest, this is not really a big take or anything. This is not really like, something outlandish coming out of my mouth. This is pretty much something that is widely expected. Because of what John Michael Schmitz, his intimidation on the football field, his fierceness in the running game, the way he can be able to get up to the pad level against the defender, and the way he can push the defender out of the way in terms of the run game and pass blocking, he can really be able to set the tone in the middle of that offensive line that the New York Football Giants have not had since the days of Sean O'Hara, back when the Giants were winning the Super Bowl in 2007 and 2011. Nobody understands how much and how important a center is to the offensive line of a team. He's your quarterback of your offensive line. He's your captain. He's the guy that sets the tone on the offensive line. You need a guy that can not only block, he can run block, pass block. He needs to set the tone on that offensive line. The quarterback and a center exchange have got to be a thing too. You need to have that type of chemistry between your center and your quarterback. And you need to have your center pretty much be able to dictate how your offensive line is going to be pushing itself going forward. Now, the Giants have gone through a lot of centers over the years. A lot. I mean, Weston Richburg, John Halapio, Billy Price, Nick Gates, Matt Skura, Ben Bredesen, John Feliciano. I mean, there's so many you can name right now that the Giants have had at the center position. The one thing that's hurt this offensive line for a long time is stability. Now you're getting yourself a stabilizing force at that center position in John Michael Schmitz, who is going to be able to dictate the offensive line going forward. This is a guy that you have wanted on this offensive line. This is a guy that we have needed on this offensive line. This is a guy that we have been craving for on this offensive line. A nasty, old school, mean center. And even if he wasn't your number one pick coming out of the NFL draft, this guy is the type of player that can really set the tone for your offensive line going forward. He really could just set the tone for your O-line. I mean, the way that this guy plays will make Giants fans more than excited. The way that this guy goes out there and displays himself on the football field will get Giants fans excited. And you're starting to see the pieces come together on this offensive line now. You are starting to see the pieces come together. You already have yourself an all-pro left tackle in Andrew Thomas, who has developed into one of, if not the best left tackle in the National Football League. You have a right tackle that, yes, he struggled during his rookie year, but he has all the tools and the talent in the world to become a top-level right tackle in this NFL in Evan Neal. You have a good amount of depth now at the guard position. You got a veteran in Mark Lewinsky and Ben Bredesen. You got young players in Marcus McKeithen and Joshua Azudu. You got other players like J.C. Hausenauer, who could play center and guard. Jack Anderson as well. Shane Lemieux, who has experience playing guard and center. You have guys that can interchange at the guard position. And now you have yourself a potential franchise center that could really control this offensive line and take this offensive line to the next level. And what's been the one biggest problem with this New York Giants team? We have not had stability, especially at the tackle positions and the center position. The offensive line has been a dark hole for the New York Giants for many years. Many years. And Dave Gettleman made the right pick by getting Andrew Thomas back in 2020 at pick number 4. And then last year, Joe Shane was able to snatch up Evan Neal with pick number 7 in 2022. And now you add John Michael Schmitz. 3 years. 3 of the past 4 years for the New York Giants, we have selected an offensive lineman in the first round. Or in the first 2 rounds. 3 years. After the Giants have been playing patchwork with this offensive line for many years, finally, the New York Giants are putting more emphasis on the offensive line and making sure they fix this up, because Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, right now, Jones is the franchise of this team. And if the Giants can work out a long-term deal, Saquon Barkley is another part of this franchise. He's going to be part of the team for a long time. And the only way you can have these guys succeed is if you build a line in front of them, starting with John Michael Schmitz. Centers set the tone for an offensive line. Look at that great Jets line for so many years. You had Nick Mangold, and before him, Kevin Mawai. For the Cowboys, why the Cowboys were so good? Yes, you had Zach Martin and you had Tyron Smith, but you had Travis Fredericks in that center position. Why is Kansas City's offensive line so much better? Creed Humphrey. And why does Baltimore have high hopes about their offensive line? Tyler Linderbaum. If you can get yourself that center that can set the tone for your offensive line and your offense, it could take your team to the next level. And that's exactly what a John Michael Schmitz can do for this New York Giants offensive line and this offense as a whole. Because there's even reports coming out there, other players are intimidated by this dude, and he's a rookie. That defensive players are intimidated by John Michael Schmitz. You don't think that's going to get Giants fans excited to hear that this center that they brought in from Minnesota is intimidating players already? And nobody wants to mess with big number 61 on that offensive line? The Giants have a strategy now that they're trying to put together. They know and they want Daniel Jones to be their guy at quarterback right now. And you know, if you want your quarterback to succeed, you need to build a fortress in front of him in terms of an offensive line. You need to build an offensive line that is going to set the tone going into the season. Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, John Michael Schmitz. You got 3. 3 guys that could potentially be pieces on this team going forward. And if somebody like Joshua Ezeudu, who the Giants are very high on at that guard position, if he pans out, now you got 4. And who's to say that the other kid, Marcus McKeithen, couldn't pan out? Then you have yourself a drafted, homegrown offensive line that you could have part of this team for the next how many years? And for an organization, the Giants, that have struggled for many years trying to put together an offensive line, you're finally starting to see the pieces be put into place and this offensive line starting to come together. Now, obviously, it's going to take time for these guys to all gel with one another. Offensive lines take time to gel. But if all these guys play up to their potential, their draft potential, the Giants could be in the midst of an offensive line that they have not seen since 2007, 2011. And who even knows? That offensive line back in the day in 2007, that was a bunch of guys that were undrafted free agents, and that was a bunch of guys that were guys they signed off of other teams' rosters. Remember, they signed Kareem McKenzie back in 2005. They signed Sean O'Hara in 2006. Rich Seibert looked like his career was going to be over after he had a debilitating neck and back injury. He was able to come back. A knee injury. Then you had somebody like David Deal, 5th round pick. Chris Snee, the only 2nd round pick on this team. Offensive line gelled together and you had yourself a pretty good unit. But you look at this offensive line. Andrew Thomas is already emerged as one of the best left tackles in football. Evan Neal struggled during his rookie year, but a lot of people believe Evan Neal is ready to become a top-level right tackle in this league. John Michael Schmitz was consensusly one of the top centers, if not the top center, coming out of this draft. And you already have young guys at the guard position that could potentially take over. You're starting to see the pieces be put in place. It's all about this offensive line gelling now as a team. The question is, can they do it? How much time is it going to take for this offensive line to be put together? But the one thing that this Giants organization has been very, very poor at for many years is building an offensive line for your quarterback. And finally, it looks like the Giants might be getting it right on the offensive line. You hit a grand slam with Andrew Thomas. Evan Neal, the jury is still out, but a lot of Giants fans believe he could become the real deal. And John Michael Schmitz could be that center that us Giants fans have been looking for many years, since the days of Sean O'Hara. And what a beautiful thing it would be to see this offensive line finally take shape, and it helps lead the Giants to a place that we have not been since 2007 and 2011. That's the Super Bowl. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and give a sub to NYGJeffyT85. More news updates and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. Turn on the bell for notifications. The next video we're short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Giants. And let me know in the comment section what you think about this Giants offensive line finally starting to take shape. Namely, John Michael Schmitz and the impact that he can make for this Giants offensive line going forward into the 2023 season and beyond. And if you think this offensive line is taking shape and could be one of the best young offensive lines in football, not only in the future, but in 2023. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take it easy, and let's go New York Football Giants. As always, together blue, everyone.